This podcast is part of the Listen Frederick Podcast Network. To learn more, visit listenfrederick.com.
The Fedora Files.
Hello, I'm Gregory Fedora, and this is the Fedora Files. And we are going to do the last couple chapters of South Mountain Magic by Madeline Vinton Dahlgren. We're on chapters 6 and 7, and I thought it'd be fitting to do it here at Dahlgren Chapel, which is the church that Madeline built right across the way over that way. You can't see it, but that is her South Mountain house. It's now called the South Mountain Inn. It's a restaurant, bar, great establishment. So her house was right there. She built this chapel. She's actually buried inside along with some of her family members until some vandals desecrated the grave site, which is sad. So the bodies were exhumed and moved. But this is South Mountain. We are at the top of it. And I thought, like I said, fitting to finish up here. And the last two chapters, chapter 6 is called Witchcraft. And chapter 7 is Magic Cures in the Black Book. Ooh. So anyway, so in chapter 6, she goes over witchcraft. She goes into kind of the beliefs of the people who lived on South Mountain in the area in Middletown as well as Boonesboro. Again, Madeline had kind of a disdain for these people. She was hardcore Catholic, which isn't bad, but she, when dealt with magic, she was really against it. And she had preconceived ideas of it. The people near Boonesboro, that would be the Ziddles, or Ziddles, sorry. The Ziddles were right there. Ziddlestown is right on the other side of this mountain as you go down before you hit Boonesboro. But that's where the Wizard of South Mountain lived. So her idea of witchcraft, she felt like they did certain kind of spells. They would bury money under someone's home because they felt that was kind of a curse. If you buried money under a person's home, it would be taking the money away from them. So it was a hex that people would do. So she goes into those details. There's also a story she goes into about a certain area of farmland which is between here and Boonesboro. I did some research on it, and the farm she is talking about is right down there. I don't know who owns it now, but the field supposedly at the time didn't produce much crops because witches or the women, the Ziddle women, had done witchcraft and curses on that land. And so there was a demon supposedly that wandered that field down there. And this is all in the book. And a guy was going by, and his wife's like, "Don't go here." He's like a man's man. He's like, "I'm going there." And the story is he went into the field, took a big log, and he saw the demon, and he whacked it with the log and beat it up. And then suddenly the field became usable. So there you go. Run into a demon, grab a log, hit it. Everything's honky-dory then. She has a few other tales. Again, I don't like telling all the stories that are in it because I want you to get the book. I want you to read it. I get nothing for it if you go buy the book. It's not. I have nothing to do with the book. You can find it on Amazon. Other than reading it, to me, it's fascinating to see the mindset of the time area, what people thought, how people did things, and the language they use is really cool. You learn a lot. You just learn a lot reading it because you have to look up words and be like, "Whoa, what does that mean?" So witchcraft, she really goes into some of the curses and the hexes people did on each other. She kind of believed that the people in the area lived in sects and sects, not sex, sects, like SECTS. So they're grouped by family, and they're very familial. And this has nothing to do with South Mountain, but kind of like the Hatfields and McCoys. Family were everything. So if you were Hatfield, you didn't deal with the McCoys, and although at one point they were friends, but then there was a feud, and then it lasted for years. So the same thing, the mindset she believed was very similar, where the people over here, the Ziddles, didn't like the Rothschilds and the Grosses, and so they didn't intermingle very much, which you think you'd want to, because, you know, whatever. Anyway, so witchcraft went into that. We then dive into the last chapter, which is, like I said, Magic Cures in the Black Book. Now, the Black Book she is referring to is Michael Zittle's Little Black Book, and it was his magic book that is famous. He was the South Mountain Wizard. A lot of people, he would help people. That's really what he was out to do, was to help people, heal people. It was a lot of natural herbs. I don't know that he was really magical. It was more like, you know, like nowadays you go to like Walmart or whatever, and there's the herb section, and you're like, oh yeah, this herb will make me look better, and this one grows hair, this one's for ED. So people, you know, that's what he did. He had herbs and stuff, and he would help people. He supposedly did do hexes or incantations to try and help things, but it wasn't negativity. He didn't try, his thing was not, he didn't do harm to people. That was not his goal. But Madeline didn't like him. She didn't like the Zittles. She didn't like him in particular. She hated black magic. She had witchcraft. She hated anything that was not from what she said was God. And these incantations and stuff were not from God. And so she was against it. But what's fascinating is she found herself a copy of the Black Book, and it was written in German. The story of the book is that it was originally an old, and this is going to be convoluted, but it was a book that was found in the Holy Land. But it was written in Spanish in the Holy Land, which, okay, whatever. But, you know, the Holy Land, it should have been Aramaic or Hebrew or Latin at the very least, but it was Spanish. Then Michael Zittle, Michael Zittle took the book and translated it to German, which was more his native language, and then he used it. So I don't know how he understood Spanish, because from what I understood, and any research you do on the man, he was not like a well-educated individual. He was not, he didn't go to school. He was, and not against that, but he wasn't like a learned scholar. He was a simple guy. He built shingles for homes. That was his livelihood. But he had this black book that was in German, and he knew German, and I guess he knew a little bit of English, but, you know, he was a German immigrant. His family was, but German was like their normally spoken language, which is interesting in the area. If you go around to some of the tombstones, are written in German. But anyway, so he had this black book, and he would do these things, help people with different ailments or whatever they had and needed. He would take care of it, and he would do these things, and people were always like, you know, they liked him. Well, making shingles was not a way to get wealthy, and he had some substantial debt and needs for his family. And one thing within his own black book, it said you weren't supposed to ever use this magic for profit. But he believed that, and he talked about that to the locals. But he needed money, so he had the German book translated into English, and he sold it. And whether or not you want to go karma, believe whatever, after he did that, his life got even infinitely worse. He died, I think it was 7 years later, but he was destitute by that point. So he had financially gotten way worse off after he sold the book, which you would think would be the opposite. But there's, like, I think there's only 1 or 2 copies of the original translated book available. No one knows where the original book is. It's gone. But there is some translated copies. Well, Madeline got a copy of it. Now, Madeline, who was so against this and against witchcraft and spells and all that, she decided to put some of the incantations in the actual book. So I'm not going to read them, but they're in here. And she has the different, like she does little quotes of them, and explains what they were for. She talked about there's like drawings in the book, like hieroglyphs, like Egyptian hieroglyphs. Again, not sure why they were there, but anyway, so she talks about a book. She doesn't like Mr. Zittel. The interesting thing is, when she was in the area, he was still alive. He was very old. So I found it interesting that she interviewed a lot of people for this book and talked to a lot of people, but she never talked to him. Never talked to him. She got stories from others about him. And so, which I think it's kind of sad, because I think she had an opportunity to meet the man and actually find out. So we don't, and sad, like some of what we know about him is from her. And then she really had like, a disdain for him. It would be kind of like, and whatever side of the aisle you're on, is if you were to go and ask about Obama, but your source was, or Biden, and you went to Donald Trump and asked him, tell me about those guys. Or vice versa. You want to know about Donald Trump, I'll go ask Biden and Obama what they thought. So that, it's kind of hard to then know who the man really was, how he was. There are other stories about him from his family, because there are descendants of his that still live in this area. Like I said, there's still a town between South Mountain, Middletown, and then Boonesboro. It's Zidle. It's just a little village. There's just a few people live there. Some are his descendants, some aren't. But, you can go around to some of the area graves and you see Zidle or Zittle. His tomb is in Boonesboro. You can visit his tomb and see it. I believe Madeline is also in Boonesboro. I have to do more research. But it's really interesting because a lot of the things she talks about are right here in this area. And in conclusion, from going through this whole book, this book is fascinating. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk about it, because I think one of the cool things about it is, again, you get a sense of American Appalachia area from a woman who wasn't from it. She came in it. She loved the area, but she wrote down their tales. Some of it is very unbiased. She just straight up told the tale, told the stories of the area. And I think that's really beneficial. Then some of it is very biased. And you see, there's a transition, but it's still beneficial because you can learn about what people of that time period thought of the Appalachian people and of the people who did the hoodoo and all that, what they viewed them as and how they thought about them. And you kind of see that, people aren't much different today. We have a disdain for people we don't quite understand or get or relate to. We're not like them, so we automatically have a biased opinion. But I think she does a great job of keeping the stories alive, finding these stories. And that's something I'm passionate about. I love folklore. I love the traditions. I love the story. And I love learning about them, and I love sharing them with other people. I like to tell people about it. And that's why I really wanted to talk to you guys about this book, because I think this book, it's a treasure. And it's one of these that we can't lose. And I hope that we never do lose it. I hope we can still maintain copies and people can get copies and share, read it, learn. And there's many others. There's other books out there that talk of the folklore, talk of the monsters and the cryptids. And you learn so many neat things. And I think it's important to do that. It's important to learn these things and to share them with each other, because it's a growth. The stories, whether you believe them or not, help your mind. Yeah, because they're cool. They're cool things to share and go. I mean, it's vast. The folklore out there is vast around the world. And to learn it and understand where they're coming from and why they said this, why they taught this, why they thought this, it just helps you as a person, because you still see these things today. So Madeline, wherever she is, I believe she's probably in heaven because she had a good heart. Just, just like all of us, she had a, she had opinions and prejudices, and everybody does, and we got to fight those demons. But, she tried, but she also, shared a lot of the cool things that we can learn and should never be forgotten. So get out there, learn something, investigate, find these passions and find these things and get out there. And again, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching, listening, however you found my show. And please share, tell others, because I'm excited about it. And check out my website, fedoracrt.com. Check out my Instagram. It'll be below. I think it's G_Fedora_crypto. And then check out my book. I have my book out is Happy Little Monsters, Volume 1. I'm working on Volume 2. It'll be out soon. I'm going to be at some different events. I was just at one, and I'm going to be at a few more this fall, and I'll let you know about those. And I'd love to meet you and sign a book if you want. But I got a couple other books in the works coming and some other projects that I'm excited about. So please continue to watch, continue to listen, continue to tell others. Go to my YouTube channel, check out the Happy Little Monsters series, as well as Wednesday's Race and Fast Fact Fridays. So we got a lot going on. And as always, stay safe and keep searching.
The Fedora Files.
Check out fedoracrt.com today.